The alien queen trusted a human with her most dangerous secret. Ethan Cole stepped off the small transport shuttle and onto the smooth metal floor of the neutral space station. The air smelled faintly of recycled oxygen, and the low hum of machinery filled the wide corridors. Humans rarely came here, and most aliens looked at them with suspicion or open dislike. Ethan had been sent as an envoy, someone to observe and report, but he quickly realized that being here meant he had to move carefully. One wrong step, one wrong word, and tensions could flare into conflict. He adjusted his jacket and looked around. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved past him, some floating slightly above the floor, some walking on legs that bent in strange angles. Their eyes glowed softly, their voices strange and melodic, almost like singing. Ethan felt a small shiver run down his spine, but he tried to keep calm. He had trained for this. Humans were known for their courage in strange situations, and he had to show that courage now, even if he felt nervous inside. A small door opened ahead of him, and a figure stepped out. She moved with a strange elegance that seemed almost unnatural. Her skin was pale blue, with faint shimmering patterns that moved as she walked. Ethan realized instantly that this was not an ordinary alien. He had heard of Queen Luri, ruler of the Velith Empire. She was beautiful, yes, but her reputation was what made humans uneasy. The Velith Empire was powerful, feared across many star systems, and their queen was said to be wise but cruel to those who betrayed her. Ethan straightened his back and bowed slightly. The queen's eyes, glowing gold, examined him carefully. She did not speak immediately, just watched. There was something calm but sharp in her gaze. She did not seem like the other aliens he had seen on the station. Most of them looked at humans as small, loud, and weak. Queen Luri seemed different. She looked like she was studying him, as if she could see everything he thought. "Ethan Cole," she said finally. Her voice was soft, but it carried across the room. "You are human." There was no accusation in her voice, only observation. "Why are you here?" "I am here to observe," Ethan replied clearly, "and to help if I can. That is my mission." He kept his tone calm, trying not to show how nervous he felt. The queen nodded slightly. She turned, her robes flowing behind her, and walked down a narrow corridor. Ethan followed. He did not know what she wanted, but he had been trained to follow instructions. Sometimes, in situations like this, following was the best way to survive. As they walked, Ethan noticed other aliens whispering and pointing at them. He realized that he was drawing attention. Humans were not common here. Most aliens did not know how to react to them. Some stared with fear, others with open curiosity, and some with thinly veiled amusement. Ethan ignored them. He had learned long ago not to react to what others thought. Humans often were underestimated, and that underestimation could become a hidden strength. They reached a small observation room that looked out over a docking bay. Massive ships from different empires were parked there. Ethan could see small crews moving along the decks. He wondered how many of them were watching him right now, probably all of them. Queen Luri gestured for him to stand by a large console. She moved to a window, watching the ships. Ethan tried not to stare at her too much, but he could feel her eyes occasionally glance at him, assessing him. "The galaxy does not trust humans," she said finally. "Most think you are reckless. You are loud. You are emotional. You are unpredictable." She paused. "And yet you are here." Ethan nodded. "We are often underestimated," he said. "That can work to our advantage." The queen turned sharply to him, her golden eyes locking with his. For a moment, Ethan felt like she was seeing inside him, reading every thought. "And yet," she said slowly, "I wonder if you would act with courage if it mattered to someone else, not just yourself." Ethan felt a chill. He had been tested before in simulations and on missions, but somehow this felt different. He did not even know her fully, and yet he felt that moment carried weight. Before he could answer, alarms suddenly rang across the station. Red lights flashed along the walls. Ethan's heart jumped. "What is happening?" he shouted. Queen Lurie's face did not show fear. She walked toward the console and pressed a few buttons. On the main screen, he saw a small ship rapidly approaching the station. It moved too fast for any normal docking procedures. "Assassins," she said quietly. "They want me dead. And they do not care who else dies in the process." Ethan's mind raced. He had not expected violence so soon. He had trained for diplomacy, not for combat, but he knew that hesitation now could be deadly. "What do we do?" he asked. "We hide," she replied. "Come with me." She led him through a series of corridors that twisted and turned, the alarms echoing behind them. Ethan could hear distant explosions as security forces tried to repel the attackers. The station's inhabitants screamed, some running, some freezing in fear. Ethan tried not to panic. He reminded himself that humans could survive in impossible situations. Courage was not the absence of fear, he thought, but action despite fear. They entered a small room that seemed unused. Queen Lurie sealed the door behind them. She pressed a panel and dimmed the lights. The room was cold but safe for now. Ethan tried to catch his breath. "You saved civilians earlier," the Queen said suddenly, her voice low. "Even before you knew me. You risked yourself for those who were strangers. That is unusual for humans. I have observed your species for many cycles, and most would not act like that." Ethan felt his face warm. "I do what I think is right," he said, "even if it is dangerous, even if I might fail." Queen Lurie studied him for a long moment. "Perhaps," she said softly, "you are different. Perhaps humans have more strength than the galaxy gives you credit for. Perhaps I will trust you with a secret no one else knows." Ethan blinked. He did not expect that. Secrets from alien queens were dangerous, sometimes deadly. But he felt a strange honor in her words. He nodded slowly. "I will not betray your trust," he said. The Queen's golden eyes softened for a moment. "We shall see," she said. Outside the room, Ethan could hear the chaos growing. Explosions and alarms shook the station. He wondered how many had already been hurt. He wondered if the station would survive the attack. He wondered if he would. And yet, despite all that fear, he felt a strange calm. Something about the Queen's words, about her quiet trust, gave him purpose. Hours passed in the dark room. Ethan and Queen Lurie stayed mostly silent, listening to the distant sounds of combat. He learned more about her in that silence than in hours of formal meetings. She was not cruel, he realized. She was careful, wise, and burdened with responsibilities no one else could imagine. And yet she had chosen to confide in him, even before telling anyone else. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the alarm stopped. Ethan dared to peek out the small window in the door. The station was scarred but not destroyed. Security forces had managed to repel the attackers. The Queen's enemies had failed for now. Queen Lurie turned to him, her expression unreadable. "You survived the first test," she said, "but more challenges are coming. If you are to truly earn my trust, you must act with the same courage when the stakes are higher. Will you do that?" Ethan straightened, feeling a strength he did not know he had. "I will," he said firmly. "I will do whatever I can to help, even if it is dangerous." "Even if it seems impossible," the Queen nodded. "Then perhaps," she said, "there is hope for both our species. Perhaps humans are more than the galaxy believes, and perhaps one day I will share with you something that could change everything." Ethan's heart raced. He did not know what that secret would be, but he felt ready. For the first time, he understood that being human was not about strength or power. It was about courage, choices, and the willingness to act when others would freeze. And somehow that was enough to earn the trust of an alien queen. As the night stretched on, Ethan and Queen Lurie sat quietly, listening to the distant hum of the station. Outside, ships prepared for repairs and recovery. Inside, a bond formed, fragile but real. It was the beginning of something neither human nor alien could have predicted. Ethan thought of home, of Earth, and of the countless humans who had faced impossible odds before. He realized that the galaxy might underestimate them, but they had a strength that could not be measured by weapons or armies. Sometimes, the quiet courage of one human could change everything. And for Queen Luri, the most powerful and dangerous being in her empire, trusting a human was the most daring choice she had ever made. The next morning, Ethan woke to the quiet hum of the station. The fight from the night before had left the corridors damaged, but the calm now felt almost strange. Queen Luri was already awake, standing by the window looking at the stars. Her pale blue skin shimmered faintly in the soft light, and Ethan noticed that her usually sharp eyes were softer now, thoughtful. She turned to him. "You survived the first night," she said quietly. "That shows courage, but courage alone is not enough. There is something I must tell you, something dangerous, something that no one else in my empire knows." Ethan felt a jolt of anticipation. He had expected challenges but not secrets. He stepped closer. "What is it?" he asked carefully. Queen Luri walked over to a small table and motioned for him to sit. "My empire," she began slowly, "is built on power that no other species fully understands. The throne I hold is not just a symbol. It is connected to an ancient core. This core is alive in ways that humans cannot easily imagine. It can create or destroy entire star systems, and it chooses who can control it." Ethan's eyes widened. "It can destroy star systems?" he asked. How is that possible?" The Queen's expression was serious. "The core is older than most civilizations. It was created long before the Velith Empire existed. It is sentient, aware of its surroundings. If misused, it will not hesitate to end worlds. Only the Queen can control it fully, but controlling it slowly kills me. My blood, my mind, and my life are tied to it." Ethan felt a shiver. He had studied weapons and alien technologies, but this was beyond anything he had imagined. "Why tell me this?" he asked. "Why would you trust a human?" Queen Luri's golden eyes met his. "Because humans are unpredictable," she said. "And not all humans are greedy. Not all of them crave power. Most species that know of the core would try to take it, use it, or kill me for it. You listen. You consider what is right instead of what is easy. That is why I trust you." Ethan thought of his training, his missions, and the countless humans he had met. "I don't even know if I can help," he said honestly. "This is not something I was trained for." "Help is not always about training," the Queen said. "Sometimes help is about perspective, about heart, about courage." She paused and looked out the window again. "I cannot share this with anyone else in my council. They would see your presence as weakness. They would act immediately, and the core could be lost, or worse, used as a weapon. You are my only choice." Ethan took a deep breath. "Then I will help," he said. "Tell me what I need to do." Queen Luri walked to a small terminal and pressed a few keys. A holographic projection appeared above the table. It showed the core, a pulsing orb of energy that seemed to breathe. Its light shifted between blue and gold, and faint tendrils of energy moved outward, almost like it was alive. Ethan felt a strange pull toward it. It was beautiful but dangerous. He could feel its power even from a distance. "This core," the Queen said, "can sense intent. If someone approaches it with greed or violence, it will react violently. Even the strongest fleets cannot control it. That is why my advisors want to use me as a tool. They believe they can force my hand. They are wrong. And yet the core is dying inside me. I do not have much time." Ethan stared at the orb. "What can I do?" he asked. "It seems impossible to control." "You cannot control it," the Queen said. "No one can, but you can help guide me. Humans think differently. You do not see power as the only solution. You think of lives, of balance, of fairness. That is something no Velith can do with this core. They see only strategy and domination." Ethan felt the weight of responsibility settle on him. He was just one human, one envoy. How could he make a difference? Yet when he looked at the Queen, he saw her trust and hope. That was enough. He nodded. "I will do my best," he said. The Queen smiled faintly. Good. Then the first step is understanding the core. You must know it, sense it, feel it, not to control it but to help me survive it. Over the next few hours, Ethan learned about the core's strange properties. It reacted to emotions, to thought patterns, and even to physical proximity. He watched as the Queen placed her hands near the core. Light flowed from it into her veins, and she winced. Ethan realized that she was not just connected to the core, she was part of it. Every second she controlled it, she sacrificed a bit of herself. "This is why no one else can touch it," she said. "They would be killed instantly. Even my closest advisors fear it. I have trained my entire life for this, and yet it is slowly taking me apart." Ethan could feel her pain in a way he could not fully describe. "There has to be a way to save you," he said. "A way to help without hurting you." Queen Lurie shook her head. "Perhaps, but the solution will not be easy. That is why I chose you. Your species does not rush. You think carefully. You will find answers that others overlook." Ethan spent the next day observing, taking notes, and asking questions. He spoke with the Queen cautiously, careful not to offend her, careful to understand everything about the core. He realized that the core was not just a weapon, it was alive, and it responded to morality and intent. A human who acted selfishly would be destroyed. A human who acted with empathy might survive and even guide it. By the evening, Ethan had formed a plan in his mind. It was simple, but it relied on human persistence and patience rather than strength. He would contact a small team of human scientists and engineers back on Earth. They would not try to take the core. They would not try to use it. They would study it, understand it, and find a way to stabilize it. Queen Lurie watched him closely. "You are thinking of others," she said. "Not power, not control. That is why I trust you. That is why the core may respond to you differently than it does to others." Ethan nodded. "Then we need a plan to protect the core from your council. They will not understand. They will try to take it. They will try to force your hand." "Yes," the Queen said. "And that is the danger. You must act carefully. One wrong step and the core could awaken fully, destroying everything. The next step will be dangerous, Ethan, but I believe you are ready." The next morning, Ethan contacted his team. Claire Benson, a careful and brilliant scientist, and Luke Carter, an engineer with a talent for unusual problems, received his encrypted message. He explained the situation simply, omitting the danger to the Queen at first. "We need to study something extraordinary," he told them. "It is alive, it is dangerous, and it will respond only to human ethics, not power." Claire and Luke were skeptical at first. Humans rarely encountered alien technology this dangerous. But when they realized the seriousness, they agreed immediately. "We will help," Claire said, "but this is not a weapon, right?" "No," Ethan said firmly. "This is a life, and we have to protect it." By the time the team arrived in the station's human docking bay, Ethan and Queen Lurie had prepared a secure lab near the observation room. The lab was small but functional, with shields that could block energy spikes from the core. Ethan introduced the humans to the Queen, careful to maintain the delicate trust she had given him. The Queen studied them silently. She did not speak much, but Ethan could see her approval. She had chosen well. Humans who valued life over power could perhaps succeed where others had failed. Together, they began studying the core. Ethan watched as Claire carefully measured the energy flows, and Luke tested shielding technologies. The core pulsed gently, almost as if it were aware of the human's intentions. It did not lash out. It did not scream. It simply waited, observing, responding only to calm, careful energy. Hours turned into days. Outside, the station repaired itself after the attack. Inside, Ethan and the team worked tirelessly. Every failure was a lesson. Every small success gave hope. The Queen remained present, guiding them but never interfering. She had learned to trust them, and that trust was powerful. One evening, Ethan noticed a subtle change in the core's light. It pulsed brighter when humans approached with careful hands and quiet minds. He realized that the core was testing them, learning from their restraint. Unlike the Velith advisors, humans did not seek to dominate. Humans did not crave the power the core offered. Humans thought in ways the core understood, in ways the Queen's enemies could not. Queen Lurie observed Ethan quietly. "You see," she said softly, "humans do not know they are strong, but their strength is in their choices, in their morality, in their willingness to act without fear of power. That is why I trusted you. That is why you are my only hope." Ethan felt a strange pride. He was just one human, but with careful thought, calm action, and trust, he could make a difference. He understood that the galaxy underestimated humans, but that underestimation was a weapon in itself. The Queen remained beside the core, her hands resting lightly on the protective barrier. Ethan looked at her and understood the truth of her burden. Every moment she controlled the core, she sacrificed a part of herself, and yet she trusted him to help. He would not fail her. He could not. The night deepened on the station, the stars outside quiet and indifferent. But inside, humans and the Queen worked together, bridging the gap between species and beginning a plan that could save countless lives. It was dangerous, exhausting, and terrifying. But for the first time, Ethan felt that human courage, carefulness, and morality might be enough to protect something greater than themselves. Days passed in the quiet of the station, but for Ethan Cole, there was little rest. He spent every hour learning about the core, observing its reactions, and helping Claire Benson and Luke Carter set up equipment. The humans had worked quickly, but cautiously. Every attempt to understand the core required patience. It was delicate, alive, and powerful in ways that made even Ethan uneasy. Queen Lurie stayed nearby most of the time. She moved with her usual grace, her pale blue skin glimmering under the soft lights of the lab. She watched the humans closely, her golden eyes studying every small action. Ethan noticed she rarely spoke unless necessary, but her presence was constant. Her trust was not given lightly, and every day she was learning from them as much as they were learning from her. One morning, Ethan watched Claire carefully adjust a small probe near the barrier around the core. The orb pulsed in response, its light soft and rhythmic, almost like breathing. Ethan felt a thrill of hope. The humans had learned something new. The core responded more positively when approached with calm hands and quiet minds. Violence, noise, or impatience caused it to pulse erratically. "See," Ethan said, pointing to the subtle glow. "It reacts to how we act. Not just to what we do, our intentions matter," Claire nodded. "It's like it can feel us, not physically but emotionally. If we are careful, it trusts us. If we are reckless, it pushes back." Luke Carter frowned as he examined his readings. "This is incredible," he said. "Nothing in our science books describes something like this. It's alive, yes, but it's also conscious in a way I can't explain. And it's not just reactive, it's learning." Ethan felt a small sense of pride. Humans had a way of solving problems that no Velith or other alien species could match. They did not rush. They did not seek power. They observed, calculated, and tried again. And the core responded. Queen Lurie finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. "You see why I trusted you," she said. "Most of my advisors would have tried to control the core, to bend it to their will. They would have failed. They would have been destroyed. But humans think differently. You act without arrogance. You act without greed. That is why it responds." Ethan felt a weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. It was not just about survival now. It was about protecting the core, guiding it, and keeping the Queen safe. Every decision mattered. A single mistake could destroy the station, or worse, release the core's power beyond control. That evening, a distant alarm echoed through the station. Ethan's heart jumped. He ran to the observation window with the Queen. From a distance, they saw a fleet of small ships approaching. They were not part of the station. They carried no flags, no markings that Ethan recognized. The Queen's expression hardened. "They have found us," she said. "My council suspects something." They are coming to take the core. Ethan's mind raced. He had expected challenges, but this was more immediate. What do we do? He asked. We protect the core, Queen Lurie said simply. And we do not fight unless we must. Violence could awaken the core fully. That would be catastrophic. Ethan nodded. He knew she was right. Humans were strong, yes, but the core was stronger. They needed a strategy, not brute force. He turned to Claire and Luke. We need to reinforce the barriers, he said. And we need to prepare the lab for a lockdown. The core cannot fall into anyone else's hands. Claire quickly got to work, adjusting energy shields and adding extra layers of protection. Luke worked on the structural barriers, reinforcing the walls and doors. Ethan moved between them, coordinating, observing, and keeping calm. The Queen watched silently, her presence both a comfort and a reminder of what was at stake. Hours passed. The fleet drew closer. Sensors on the station showed dozens of ships, all moving carefully, scanning for threats. Ethan realized that they were underestimated. Just like the humans had been underestimated in the galaxy, the Velith Council had underestimated their caution and intelligence. They thought the humans would panic. They were wrong. Finally, the first ship docked. Ethan, Claire, and Luke stayed hidden behind the reinforced walls, watching through the security cameras. Aliens poured out of the ships, armed and ready. They were Velith soldiers, loyal to the Queen's council, sent to seize the core. They moved quickly, but the humans had prepared well. Energy barriers blocked their path. Structural reinforcements slowed them. Ethan felt a surge of hope. The humans had used their patience and careful thinking to create something the Velith soldiers could not overcome. They think they can storm in and take it, he whispered. But we've slowed them. We've made them careful. The Queen nodded silently. Yes, she said. Humans do not act with brute force. You act with thought. That is why I trusted you. As the soldiers tried to force the barriers, Ethan noticed something unusual. The core's light pulsed brighter, almost like it was responding to the tension in the room. It was aware of the intruders. It could feel their greed, their desire to control, and it did not approve. Ethan turned to Claire. It's responding to them, he said. We need to keep calm. The core will react if we panic. It trusts us because we are careful. Claire nodded, taking a deep breath. Luke did the same. Together they held their positions, moving slowly, methodically, and carefully. Every adjustment, every movement was deliberate. They did not try to attack. They did not try to force anything. They simply acted with quiet intelligence. Hours passed. The Velith soldiers grew frustrated. They had weapons, technology, and numbers, but they could not breach the lab. They did not understand the core. They did not understand the humans, and that was the difference. Ethan realized something important. Humans were underestimated because they acted differently. They did not seek domination. They did not crave power for its own sake. They worked together, thought carefully, and acted with morality. That was a strength that no Velith weapon could match. Finally, the intruders retreated. They had failed to take the core. The station was quiet again, except for the soft hum of machinery and the pulsing light of the orb. Ethan exhaled slowly, feeling relief wash over him. They had survived. They had protected the Queen. They had shown that human intelligence and restraint could succeed where brute force failed. Queen Lurie studied Ethan closely. You see, she said quietly, this is why I trusted humans. You do not seek power, you act with care. You do not panic, you do not yield to fear. That is something few species can do. Even my own advisors could not have succeeded like this. Ethan nodded, feeling a mix of pride and exhaustion. We did what we could, he said. It's not just about courage. It's about thinking carefully, staying calm, and working together. The Queen smiled faintly. Yes, and that is why I will share more with you. There are deeper secrets in this empire, secrets that could destroy worlds. But you humans, you may be the only species capable of understanding them without falling to greed. Over the next few days, Ethan, Claire, and Luke continued their work with the core. They studied its energy flows, experimented with shielding, and carefully recorded every reaction. The core seemed to respond better each day. It pulsed gently when humans approached with calm intention. It grew restless when the Velith Council tried to intervene. Ethan began to understand something profound. The core was not just a weapon, it was a being. It responded to morality, to patience, to quiet courage. Humans had something unique in the galaxy. They did not seek domination. They did not crave control. They acted with reason and conscience, and that made them powerful in ways the Velith could not understand. Queen Lurie observed quietly, her expression unreadable but thoughtful. Ethan noticed that she seemed relieved in a way she had not before. She had carried the burden of the core alone for decades, and now, with humans, she could begin to hope. She could begin to see a way to protect the galaxy without destroying herself. One evening, as the station's artificial sun set over the distant stars, Ethan approached the Queen. "You trusted me with something dangerous," he said. "I want you to know I will not betray that trust, not for power, not for fear, not for anything." Queen Lurie's golden eyes softened. "I know," she said. "You have proven that humans are capable of things my empire has never understood. That is why I confide in you. That is why you are my only hope." Ethan felt a quiet pride. Humans were underestimated, yes. They were seen as weak, reckless, and foolish. But the core had responded to them. The Queen had trusted them. And together they were beginning to change the fate of the Empire. The days that followed were filled with careful work, observation, and quiet victories. Ethan began to see that human patience and intelligence were their greatest weapons. They did not rely on brute force. They relied on understanding, cooperation, and careful choices. And in a galaxy where power was often measured by weapons and fear, that made them stronger than anyone imagined. The Queen watched silently as humans studied the core. She saw how their quiet courage and careful thought kept them safe. She saw how their morality guided every action, and she realized that she had been right to trust them. Humans were capable of something extraordinary. Ethan, Claire, and Luke continued their work, day after day, slowly unlocking the secrets of the core. They had survived an attack, outsmarted the Velith Council, and proven that humans could succeed where others failed. And yet, Ethan knew that greater challenges lay ahead. The galaxy would not wait. Enemies would come again. But for now, they had shown that careful thought, courage, and morality could protect something more powerful than any weapon. And in that quiet lab, under the soft glow of the ancient core, humans and the alien Queen worked together, building a trust that could one day save worlds. The station had been quiet for several days, but the calm was only temporary. Ethan Cole, Claire Benson, and Luke Carter were working tirelessly with Queen Lurie to understand the core. The orb pulsed softly, almost like it was alive, responding to every careful movement and calm intention from the humans. Ethan had begun to understand that the core did not respond to strength, only to careful thought, patience, and morality. But one morning, an urgent alarm shattered the quiet. Ethan's heart leapt into his throat. He ran to the observation window beside Queen Lurie. Outside, a fleet of ships was moving toward the station. Not just any ships, these were heavily armed vessels, fleet command colors unmistakable. The Queen's expression hardened. "They know," she said. "My council has discovered that I have trusted you. They are coming to seize the core. They will stop at nothing." Ethan felt the weight of the moment. They had been careful, cautious, and patient, but now the council was taking action. If they succeeded, the core could be used as a weapon, destroying not only the station but entire star systems. "We need a plan," he said. Queen Lurie turned to him, her golden eyes sharp. "We cannot fight them in the traditional sense. Violence will awaken the core fully. It will not be controlled and the station will be destroyed. We must be clever. We must protect the core without giving them a chance to touch it." Ethan nodded, his mind racing. He turned to Claire and Luke. "We need to lock down the lab completely, reinforce the barriers. The core must remain untouched. If they breach this room, everything is lost." Claire immediately began reinforcing the energy shields. Luke worked on the mechanical barriers, sealing doors and strengthening the walls. Ethan coordinated their efforts, giving calm instructions, moving quickly but carefully. The Queen watched silently, her presence a constant reminder of the stakes. Hours passed. The enemy ships docked with precision. Velith soldiers, loyal to the Queen's counsel, streamed into the station. They were armed with energy weapons, shields, and devices designed to bypass barriers. But the humans were prepared. Every corridor had traps, delays, and subtle obstacles. They were slow, careful, but unstoppable in their determination to reach the core. Ethan felt his chest tighten. "They are clever," he said, "but they do not understand the core. They do not understand us. That is our advantage." Claire nodded. "The core reacts to intent," she said. "If they approach with greed or violence, it will resist. It will not let them control it. That gives us a chance." Ethan glanced at Queen Lurie. "Can it protect itself?" he asked. The Queen shook her head. "It can defend if provoked, but it cannot attack unless fully awakened. If that happens, the station and everyone inside will be destroyed. That is why we cannot let them reach it. We must guide the situation carefully, without panic, without aggression." The first group of soldiers reached the lab. Ethan watched through security cameras, his heart pounding. They tried to force the doors open. The energy barriers flared and pulsed in response. The core seemed aware of the intruders, glowing brighter with each attempt to breach the lab. "Stay calm," Ethan whispered. "Do not react. Let it see us, not them. The core will respond to our calmness." Claire and Luke held their positions, adjusting shields and monitoring the core's response. The soldiers outside grew frustrated. They could see the lab, but they could not enter. Their weapons had no effect. Their devices failed. They were intelligent, well-trained, but they had underestimated the humans. Ethan realized that this was the moment they had been preparing for. Humans were not strong in the same way the Velith were. Their strength was in patience, in thought, in restraint. That restraint was now saving the station. Hours turned into tension-filled minutes. The soldiers outside tried different methods to break through. They hacked, attacked, and attempted to overwhelm the barriers, but nothing worked. The humans stayed calm, focused, and careful. The core pulsed gently, almost like it was listening, waiting. Suddenly, the largest group of soldiers broke through a corridor leading toward the lab. Ethan's heart raced. "They are getting closer," he whispered. "We cannot let them reach the core." Queen Lurie's hands moved instinctively. She did not need to touch the core. Her connection was enough. Light from the orb spread through the barriers, forming a protective shield that shimmered faintly. Ethan watched in awe as the core reacted to the Queen's intent and to the human's calm presence. "Now," the Queen said quietly, "do not panic. Let them see our unity. Let them know that we are not afraid, but we are careful." Ethan nodded and moved to the barrier controls. He adjusted the energy fields, making subtle changes, guiding the core's responses without forcing it. Claire and Luke followed his instructions, their hands steady, their minds focused. The soldiers reached the lab doors. They tried to force the barriers with their weapons. The energy flares from the core pushed back subtly, not violently, but enough to stop them. The soldiers faltered, unsure how to respond. They were trained for combat, not for a being that responded to morality and calm. Ethan realized that the core was testing them. It could sense their greed, their intent to seize power. It did not approve. The humans' restraint gave them strength, a strength that the Velith soldiers could not match. Hours passed and the intruders began to retreat. They had weapons, technology, and numbers, but they could not overcome the humans' careful thinking and the core's subtle protection. The station remained intact. The Queen was safe. The core had not been touched. Ethan exhaled slowly, feeling relief. They had succeeded not with brute force but with patience, calm, and careful choices. Humans had shown that courage was not just in fighting but in thinking, observing, and acting wisely. Queen Luri looked at him, her golden eyes softening. "You see," she said quietly, "this is why I trusted humans. You do not seek power, you act with thought, with care. You do not panic, you do not yield to fear. That is something few species can do. Even my own advisors could not have succeeded like this." Ethan nodded, feeling pride mixed with exhaustion. "We did what we could," he said. "It's not just courage, it's careful thinking, staying calm, and working together." The Queen smiled faintly. "Yes, and that is why I will share more with you. There are deeper secrets in this empire, secrets that could destroy worlds. But you humans, you may be the only species capable of understanding them without falling to greed." The days that followed were filled with careful work, observation, and small victories. Ethan, Claire, and Luke studied the core closely, experimenting with shielding, recording its reactions, and learning how to stabilize it. The core responded better with each day. It pulsed gently when humans approached with calm intention, and it grew restless when the Velith Council tried to interfere. Ethan began to understand something important. Humans were underestimated in the galaxy, not because they were weak, but because they acted differently. They did not rush. They did not seek domination. They observed, calculated, and acted with morality. That restraint, that careful thinking, was a strength no Velith weapon could match. Queen Luri observed them silently, her expression thoughtful. She had carried the burden of the core for decades, and now, with humans, she could see hope. Hope that the core could be protected without destruction. Hope that the galaxy could survive the power of the ancient relic. One evening, as the artificial sun of the station set over the distant stars, Ethan approached the Queen. "You trusted me with something dangerous," he said quietly. "I want you to know I will not betray that trust. Not for power, not for fear, not for anything." Queen Luri's golden eyes softened. "I know," she said. "You have proven that humans are capable of things my empire has never understood. That is why I confide in you. That is why you are my only hope." Ethan felt a quiet pride. Humans were underestimated, yes. They were seen as weak, reckless, and foolish. But their patience, morality, and intelligence had protected the core. The Queen had trusted them, and together they were changing the future of the Empire. The next morning, the calm was broken again. Scouts reported unusual activity near the station. A new fleet, larger and more organized than before, was approaching. The Council would not give up easily. They wanted the core, and they would try again. Ethan, Claire, Luke, and Queen Luri prepared once more. But this time they were ready. They had learned the core's responses. They had learned each other's strengths. They had proven that humans, careful thinking, and calm courage could overcome what brute force could not. As the fleet drew closer, Ethan looked at the Queen. "We can do this," he said. "We know what to do. We can protect the core without fighting. We can survive this." Queen Luri nodded. "Yes, and this time the core may trust us even more. It knows we do not seek power. It knows we act with morality. That is the greatest strength in the galaxy." And so, the humans and the Queen prepared not with weapons but with patience, intelligence, and careful action. They had survived once. They could survive again. And in doing so, they were proving a simple truth. Sometimes the greatest power in the galaxy is not in weapons, fleets, or domination, but in courage, careful thinking, and trust. The station was quiet in the early hours of the artificial morning, but the calm was fragile. Ethan Cole, Claire Benson, and Luke Carter had worked for days, keeping the core stable and protecting Queen Luri. The core pulsed softly, almost like a living heartbeat, responding to every careful action of the humans. Ethan had learned that patience, thought, and morality were as powerful as any weapon in the galaxy. But calm did not last long. Sensors picked up a new threat approaching the station, a massive fleet commanded by the Queen's Council. This time it was not just scouts or small groups of soldiers. They came in full force, prepared to seize the core by any means. The Queen's expression darkened. "They will not stop," she said. "They are determined to take what they believe is rightfully theirs. If they succeed, the core will be misused and the galaxy will suffer. We have no choice. We must act carefully, but we must act." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. Every decision mattered. Every mistake could destroy the station, the core, and countless lives. "We will not let them reach it," he said. "We will protect it. We will protect you." Claire and Luke moved quickly, reinforcing the lab's barriers and adjusting the energy shields. Ethan coordinated their actions, staying calm despite the fear building in his chest. Queen Lurie stayed near the core, her hands hovering above the protective barrier, ready to guide its responses. The first ships docked, and Velith soldiers poured into the station. They were trained, heavily armed, and relentless, but the humans had prepared well. The corridors were blocked, the doors reinforced, and the energy shields adjusted to respond to threats. Every obstacle slowed the intruders. Every careful choice made by the humans kept them safe. Ethan watched the security feeds carefully. The soldiers tried every method to breach the lab. Weapons flared against the barriers, devices beeped and whirred, but nothing worked. They were clever, but they did not understand the core. They did not understand the humans. That difference was the key. The core pulsed brighter as the soldiers approached, sensing their intent. It recognized greed and aggression, and it resisted. But it also recognized the humans' calm, their morality, their patience. It formed a protective energy around them, responding to their restraint instead of fear. Ethan realized something important. Humans were underestimated not because they were weak, but because they acted differently. They did not rush into danger. They did not crave power. They observed, thought carefully, and acted with conscience. That carefulness, that morality was their greatest strength. Hours passed. The Velith soldiers grew frustrated and disorganized. They tried to overwhelm the humans with numbers and force, but they could not penetrate the reinforced lab. The core pulsed steadily, guided by the Queen and the humans, protecting itself and the station. Finally, the soldiers began to retreat. They had failed to take the core. They had underestimated the humans and the Queen's careful planning. The station remained intact, the core untouched, and the Queen safe. Ethan exhaled slowly, relief flooding his body. They had survived not with brute strength but with intelligence, patience, and careful choice. Queen Lurie studied Ethan, her golden eyes softening. "You see," she said quietly, "this is why I trusted humans. You do not seek power, you act with thought, you do not panic. That is something few species can do. Even my own advisors could not have succeeded like this." Ethan nodded. "We did what we could," he said. "It's not just courage, it's careful thinking, staying calm, and working together." The Queen smiled faintly. "Yes. And that is why I will share more with you. There are deeper secrets in this empire, secrets that could destroy worlds. But you humans, you may be the only species capable of understanding them without falling to greed." In the following days, Ethan, Claire, Luke, and Queen Lurie continued their work. They studied the core, experimented with energy shielding, and monitored its responses. The core pulsed gently, responding to calm and careful humans, while resisting those who approached with greed or aggression. Ethan began to understand a profound truth. Humans were underestimated because they acted differently, not because they were weak. They thought, observed, and chose morality over domination. That restraint, that careful courage, was a strength the Velith could never match. The Queen observed the humans quietly, her expression thoughtful. She had carried the burden of the core for decades, sacrificing her strength and life to control it. Now, with humans by her side, she could see a way to protect it without destruction. Hope returned to her for the first time in years. One evening, as the station's artificial sun set over distant stars, Ethan approached the Queen. "You trusted me with something dangerous," he said. "I will not betray that trust, not for power, not for fear, not for anything." Queen Lurie's golden eyes softened. "I know," she said. "You have proven that humans are capable of things my empire has never understood. That is why I confide in you. That is why you are my only hope." Ethan felt quiet pride. Humans were underestimated, yes. They were seen as reckless and foolish, but their patience, morality, and intelligence had protected the core. The Queen had trusted them, and together they were changing the fate of the Empire. Soon, news came that the Velith Council had abandoned their plans to seize the core. The humans' careful actions had prevented violence, and the Council realized the core could not be forced. The Queen finally declared a new order, one where power would not be used recklessly, and humans were credited for their crucial role. The station returned to a calm state. Ethan, Claire, and Luke continued to study the core, learning more each day. The core responded positively, stabilized by their careful work and morality. The Queen finally allowed herself to rest, knowing she had trusted the right species. Ethan reflected on everything that had happened. The humans had been underestimated, but their strength lay in their patience, morality, and careful courage. The core had responded to them because they acted wisely, not violently. That was a lesson the galaxy would have to learn. True strength was not in weapons, fleets, or domination, but in restraint, intelligence, and trust. One day, as the station floated silently among the stars, Queen Lurie turned to Ethan. "You have done more than I ever imagined. You have saved the core. You have saved lives. You have shown that humans are capable of something extraordinary." Ethan smiled. "We did what we could," he said. "It's not about power, it's about doing what is right." The Queen nodded. "Yes. And that is why the galaxy will never forget humans again. You have earned trust that no one else could have. You have proven that true power lies not in fear or domination, but in courage, careful thought, and morality." The humans and the Queen continued their work, but now there was a sense of hope. They had survived attacks, outsmarted the Council, and protected the core. The galaxy had seen that humans were not weak, and that sometimes restraint and careful thinking were more powerful than any weapon. Ethan, Claire, and Luke worked together, guiding the Queen and the core carefully. They had proven that humans could face impossible odds and succeed, not through force, but through intelligence, morality, and courage. And so the station floated among the stars, quiet and safe. The core pulsed gently, alive but calm, guided by humans who understood the meaning of responsibility. Queen Lurie rested, relieved and hopeful. The Council had been defeated, not through war, but through careful planning, trust, and courage. The galaxy would remember this moment. Humans, underestimated for so long, had shown a power greater than any fleet or weapon. They had proven that morality, careful thought, and trust were forces that no one could ignore. Ethan looked at the stars, feeling proud and humble at the same time. They had saved lives, protected the core, and earned the trust of one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. He realized that the galaxy had underestimated humans, but their quiet courage had changed everything. Queen Lurie approached him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You have done well," she said. "More than well. You have reminded me why hope exists. You have reminded me why humans are special." Ethan smiled. "We just did what was right," he said. "And that," the Queen said, "is why the galaxy will never underestimate humans again." And so, under the calm glow of the stars and the pulsing light of the ancient core, humans and the Queen began a new chapter. One of trust, restraint, and quiet courage. One that would be remembered across the galaxy. One that proved that true power was not in domination, not in fear, but in careful thought, morality, and the courage to do what was right.